What's going on? What's going on? What's going on, family? Jonathan Jones here, your podcast mentor. And today I wanted to dive in, right? And I wanted to talk to you about how to grow your podcast in 2021. Okay. And if you're somebody out there and you're like, but wait a minute, John, I don't have a podcast just yet. Well, that's perfectly fine. But I want to give you some questions and I want to give you just some insight that you'll know and be able to reflect on. All right. So that's what we're going to dive into today, making sure that you understand how you can grow your podcast in 2021. But before we get there, if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, I would encourage you to make sure that you subscribe to the channel, which is just Jonathan Jones Speaks. And if you're somebody who enjoys podcasting or you're wanting to learn more about podcasting, in addition to somebody who appreciates self-help strategies for success, I would encourage you to subscribe to our channel. So it's Jonathan Jones Speaks on YouTube. So now, without further ado, I want to dive in today and I want to talk about this topic first because I think so often it's easy to say, I want to grow. Right. I want to grow my business. I want to scale my business. I want to do all of these different things. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Right. Because that's an area that, I would say that I'm in as well, wanting to grow and scale the business. But then I had to get to the point and to the place to where I had to ask myself, but John, you want to grow. You want to get more opportunities. You want to do more things. But the fact of the matter is, the first question I want you to consider: am I consistent? Right. And the reason that I want to share this out is because based on the book that I read, it says, if you're faithful over few, then I'll make you ruler over many. Right. And for me, for some time currently, I've told my wife that I want to start working out again. I want to put on a little bit of muscle mass. Right. This is something that ultimately I want to make sure that I'm being in a position and being in a place to where I can grow. However, I don't consistently work out. I'll work out for a day and then I'll stop. I'll work out for a day and then I won't. So I can expect me to build muscle mass just as well as we can expect the podcast to grow if we're not consistent. So the first thing I would ask you, or just encourage you to ask yourself, is, am I consistent? Am I putting out content every Monday like I told people I would? Am I doing 3 episodes a month or 4 episodes a month like I told people that I would? So that would be the first thing I would encourage you just to ask yourself and begin to reflect on. Are you consistent? Right. And I think that is the biggest key that I've seen in growing my podcast with Speak Your Success, which I had a few years ago. And then now with Beyond the Ball, I've shown a level of consistency. So now I've seen a slight uptick in engagement as well as listenership. So ask yourself, am I consistent? All right. Then the second thing I would ask you is, because we're in a time of social media, right? There's so many different platforms. We have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have Twitter. We can go down the lines for all the different platforms that exist when we talk about social media. Then the question that I want to ask you is, based on the followers that you have, if you're somebody who has a podcast, right? If you're somebody who has a podcast, do your followers know that you have a podcast? It's just something to consider. Do your followers, if they see your username, will they say, oh, that person is the host of blank and blank podcast? If they see you post content, or would they follow you because they can appreciate the podcast content that you're going to share? Right? This is another area to where, if we're looking to grow a podcast, on top of being consistent, being number one, then the second one would be, do the followers even know that you have a podcast platform? Do they know what you talk about and discuss on your show? Because if they know what you talk about and discuss, then they'll be in the point and be in the position to where they'll want to share it with other people who need the content that you're offering, right? So thinking about that right there, we have to make sure that our followers know we have a podcast. And with that being said, I'm just going to put in a shameless plug here. If you have not checked out my podcast entitled Beyond the Ball, you can see it scrolling on the bottom. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you'll get at least 2 episodes a week, right? 2 episodes a week. And my content, like I said, is ultimately about tangible self-help strategies for success, in addition to assisting student athletes to succeed beyond their degree. So that's Beyond the Ball. Had to do the plug there, it just made sense. So we have to make sure that our followers know that we have a podcast platform if we're wanting to grow our podcast. All right. That's only if you want to grow your podcast. If you don't want to grow, then hey, I mean, continue to post the way that you post, right? Just do what, if you want to get the same results that you've always gotten, then do what you've always done. Okay. So that's the second question. We need to make sure that our followers know that we have a podcast. All right. Now, the third point I want to share with you is, if they know that we have a podcast or they don't know, right? Maybe it's a fact because we're not posting enough, right? Would you agree? Maybe it's the fact that you're posting once a week. Maybe you're posting once every 2 weeks, right? I'm not sure what your schedule is or how often you decide to post about your podcast content. However, this is something that you might want to consider is, how often do I post? And I know what the immediate thought is. You might think, John, but I don't want my followers to think I'm trying to just force feed them my content. But John, wait, I don't know if I should be posting about this. But John, this is my personal page. I don't want to put my podcast on my personal page. Well, do you want to grow the podcast? I mean, because for me personally, and what I teach in my program, Get Paid with Podcasting, I teach that we have to identify the purpose of our podcast, right? And if the purpose of a podcast is to get out a message, right? The purpose of a podcast is to inspire the people. The purpose of a podcast is to be positioned in a way to where you can be seen as an authority and generate revenue and income. Then you need to let people know about your podcast, right? I would have to say that, and I'm going to go dramatic here. I'm going to go dramatic. All right. I'm just going to go wide left. And, you know, if you're watching this video on YouTube, I would encourage you to give it a like, a thumbs up, or share this with a friend that you know has a podcast, but they're playing with it, right? Or you have a friend who has a podcast, they have great content, but they're not getting it out to the masses. I want you to think about the podcast like this. Imagine the podcast is a medication. Right. Let's think about it. Let's think about it. The podcast is a certain medication, and based on the content that you're giving out on your podcast, based on the information that you're sharing with the people, your medication will be the difference in somebody living or somebody dying. Really reflect on that. Like, do you believe in the content that you're giving people? Or as I've heard it said before, you know, we eat our own cooking. I eat my own cooking. There's nothing that I will tell a student athlete on the podcast that I don't believe in. There might be a guest I bring on. They might have an alternate belief. However, I'm not force feeding them to do anything that I say or that the guest says, but I want to bring and introduce them to opportunity for more information. Okay, so we want to make sure that we're posting about our podcast. We want to make sure that people know. Post 2 times, 3 times, however many times a week that you can be consistent. Post, right? Post. And with that being said, I'm gonna stay on social media for a second. I'm gonna stay on social media because I was looking at somebody's post the other day. They just launched a podcast. I was like, oh, that's what's up. That's awesome. They just launched the podcast. I was like, man, I'm excited for you. And they're not somebody who's in the program. And then as I saw the content that they were posting out, I started going through their feed on Twitter, and I was like, man, I'm not seeing your podcast I'm not seeing no podcast content in here. I was like, okay, well, maybe it's a little bit further down. I went all the way down, like, man, okay, I'm not gonna work that hard to find your podcast. I was like, nah, I'm good on that. And then it hit me. Number 4, is my podcast listed in my bio, like somewhere? Okay, somewhere, anywhere, pick a pair, please. If you have a podcast, I'm going back to the analogy I used for point number 3, and your podcast has the ability to change somebody's life based on the content that you're sharing, I think it's in our best interest to at least post it in our bio somewhere. Just post it in the bio somewhere, right? Because if it's not in the bio and you tell people you have a podcast, people are only going to look so long before they give up. They're like, bruh, nah, I'm not wasting. No, I'm not looking for your podcast because you're making this really difficult for me to give you this listen. I ain't had to work that hard for nothing in my life. Nope, I'm good. Sorry, bye. So number 4, put the podcast in your bio somewhere, anywhere. Okay. And now you all got you all rocking with me. Now I want to just I'm curious if anybody listens to audio books, right? If you listen to audio books, you listen to Audible. I would love for you to share with me. Like, shoot me a DM, be like, yeah, John, I listen to Audible. I rock with the audio books because I know we're in 2021 and this is the time to where it just makes things easy. It makes things really, really easy. And I was listening to an audio book the other day about David Goggins. It's called You Can't Hurt Me, right? It's the best self-help and personal development book tangibly that I've ever heard in my life. That, in addition to The Magic of Thinking Big. And I wanted to just share that with you all just as a resource. But in addition to that being a resource, I wanted to also let you all know that if you don't have an Audible account, you can just tap in right here. You can just shoot me. You can text me hashtag audiobooks, hashtag audiobook to 678-658-3627. Just text me hashtag audiobook to 678-658-3627. And I'll shoot you a link to where you can get a free audiobook, right? Courtesy of Audible. So for you all rocking with me today on this episode, I wanted to make sure to give you all that freebie right there. Once again, just text the hashtag, right? The actual hashtag, the symbol, and then put in the word audiobook and then send it to 678-658-3627. And you can get that free audiobook right there. Okay. Lindsay said, I want to get on that. Yeah. Can't Hurt Me is Flames. Yes, it is. And the audiobook is actually better than the original book because he actually puts in some additional content in the audiobook. I'm gonna go back and listen to it again. So I've told you if you want to grow your podcast, I gave you 4 questions to consider so far, and I'm gonna give you number 5, and then I'm gonna review them all. But number 5 is, how easy is it for people to find your show? How easy is it for people to find your show? If you're saying, John, my show is super easy to find, man. I in the title, I got the emoji of the money bags, and I mean, I have all these cool fonts and all that other stuff. And I mean, I think that's great. I think that's dope. You know, if you're somebody who's like artsy, I think that's super dope and more power to you. However, just like I shared with you all in that explanation earlier, I was trying to find the episode of this this person's podcast to listen to, right? I was trying to find it, but I couldn't. And then after I couldn't find it on Twitter, and since I'm the podcast mentor, I did a little bit more digging. I was like, oh, okay. Oh, it's on the website. Oh, okay. It's on the website. Cool. It's on the website, but it's not on the social media. And if I asked you all, if I said, DM me, if you go searching for people's websites, right? I'll be curious. How many people just go searching for people's websites? Probably not many. You're probably going to find them on Instagram and then click on the link in their Instagram bio. And then from there, then you're going to make the decision. Oh, somebody taking notes with the hands up in the eyes. Oh, man. From there, then you're going to make the decision. Oh, I want to find out and I want to go to this person's website. But people aren't going to just go look for your website just off the strength of looking for your website. Like I'll tell you that out the like off rip. That's not gonna like that. That's not just gonna happen. I'm sorry, but it's not. Okay. So really quick, I want to recap. And just like I said before, if you're just tuning in or if you've been asleep this episode, I'm Jonathan Jones Speaks. I'm your podcast mentor, right? So you can connect with me on Instagram. I'm Jonathan Jones Speaks. Okay, I'm gonna do it across the bottom. I'm Jonathan Jones Speaks. So really quick, we're gonna recap because today we were talking about 5 questions to consider. Because the topic is how to grow your podcast in 2021, but the focus that I had today is what are 5 questions that you can ask yourself to make sure that you're doing these things to grow your podcast. So now I'm going to go back through them and I'm going to answer each question that I laid out just to make this thing clear, make it smooth, and make sure it makes sense for everybody. Okay, so here we go. Taking it from the top. The first question I said you have to ask yourself is, am I consistent? John, I struggle with consistency. How can I be consistent? First things first, you want to create a schedule, okay? A schedule of some kind, all right? For me personally, my schedule looks like this, all right? Looks like that. And on this schedule, every day I have some items listed out that I need to get accomplished. If you're looking to grow a podcast, approach it like that. What are 2 things I need to do today that will help me grow my podcast? Okay, I need to post about it. That's 1. Second thing, I need to change the link in my bio and make sure that it gives people a place to click. All right. So am I consistent? We want to create a schedule of tasks. 2, 3, however many items you can commit to. I would say start with 1. Y'all see the list that I just showed you. I got there because I started with 1 item. Then the next day I did 2. And then eventually it grew over time. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, do my followers know that I have a podcast? I can't say that without making sure that you all know I'm Jonathan Jones. I'm the host of the Beyond the Ball podcast. All right. I would encourage you to check it out. It's on Apple. It's on Spotify. Wherever you listen, we have the Beyond the Ball podcast. All right. Check it out. We interviewed some guests like from Last Chance U. We had Coach John Mosley. We had Coach Rob from Last Chance U. I've had Nick Swisher on my podcast if you like baseball. And I've even had James Starks on my podcast as well. All right. So that's Beyond the Ball. That's my plug there. But if your followers don't know that you have a podcast, here's the tip. Gym drop alert. Then today, I want you to introduce yourself or reintroduce yourself to your audience, your followers, and let them know that you have a podcast. In addition to letting them know that you have a podcast, let them know where they can listen. Okay. So that's the tangible for step number 2. I like tangible takeaways. All right. I like tangible takeaways. Number 3, how often do I post about my podcast? That ties into 2 and that ties into 1. Am I consistent? I want you just to decide today. I'm going to post, if I drop a podcast on Mondays, I'm going to post every Monday about it. I'm going to post every Wednesday about the episode that I dropped on Monday. All right. So identify what you can commit to and then post accordingly. All right. Boom. Number 4, please, Jesus help us, please post your podcast in your bio somewhere. Like use a hashtag for it. Tell people I'm the host of blank podcast. Like do something so that people know. And then you can make a post. Hey, I'm Jonathan Jones, the host of the Beyond the Ball podcast. If you want to check out the latest episode where we talked about struggling with mental health disorders, click the link in my bio and boom. That easy. All right. Want to put it in the bio somewhere. And then how easy is it for people to find your show? Make it easy for people. Make it easy. If you're on LinkedIn or if you're on Twitter, post a link to where people can click it and go straight to Spotify or straight to Apple or straight to Google or wherever. But post a link to make it easy for people to listen to your show. If it's not easy for people to listen to your show, then you're making it too hard. You're making it too hard. All right. So I would love if you all just took the time and, if you felt that there was value in this episode, then shoot me a DM. Let me know. You can shoot me a DM at Jonathan Jones Speaks on Instagram at Jonathan Jones Speaks. Shoot me a DM. Let me know, or leave a comment down below. What was your biggest takeaway from this video? If you're listening on YouTube or you're watching on YouTube. But other than that, family, I'm Jonathan Jones. I'm your podcast mentor. And if you have questions, or if you even have a podcast up and running, you're like, John, I don't know what to do with this thing. And I'm not sure where to go next. I even have a link in my bio right now on Instagram where you can click, and I'm doing podcast consultations, right? I'm doing podcast consultations. So hit me up there and I will definitely make sure that I get to your question. Great points, my brother. I missed Tuesday, so I needed this. Coach Ken, man, that's Coach Ken right there, man. Coach Ken is in our community, to Get Paid with Podcasting community. And Coach Ken is getting ready to launch his podcast coming up. I'm gonna be excited to share about that when Coach Ken releases that out to the world. So shout out to Coach Ken right there with Coach Kenny. Okay, Coach Kenny. My bad, Coach Kenny. My bad. Okay. But family, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Like I said, Jonathan Jones, I'm your podcast mentor. If you have questions, shoot me a DM on Instagram, Jonathan Jones Speaks. And then in addition to that, if you're like, John, I want to do a podcast consultation, click that link in my bio on Instagram. We can get you scheduled up. We can get you ready to rock, and we can get you ready to roll. But until next time, family, I want you all to make sure that you get positioned. You ultimately are sharing your purpose. And then last but not least, then there comes the opportunity to profit. That's what we are all about in the Get Paid with Podcasting community. But first, it's about positioning. Then it's about operating in purpose. And then that's when the opportunity comes to profit. I'm Jonathan Jones, your podcast mentor. Until next time, continue to be great.